Good morning and welcome to our program to celebrate the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. My name is Susan Krosky and it is my great pleasure to serve as the Executive Champion to the KSC Disability Awareness and Action Working Group. Now I know that's a mouthful, so we refer to ourselves very fondly as the Mighty Dogs. So the dogs are here today and we have a wonderful program. We'd like to begin with the singing of the national anthem by Shamika Hamilton, who is from the Launch Services program, and she is a member of both DAAWG and the BEST. Would you please stand?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much, Samika. That was beautiful. On behalf of DAAWG, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today as we recognize the enrichment of our diverse culture from employees with disabilities, whether they be visible or hidden challenges. So DAAWG is a really active government and contractor group that's very passionate about promoting the possibilities and the capabilities of individuals with disabilities in our workplace. Many DAAWG members are here today, and I'd like for them to either stand or signal to us so that we can recognize them for their efforts to make this center the very, very best place for individuals with disabilities to work at NASA. Our goal for today's program is to provide you with an awesome inspirational message, and it's given by a dedicated teacher who overcame obstacles with students who had disabilities to attend space camp. It's about focusing on abilities, it's about valuing diversity inside and outside the workplace. So this message truly fits the 2014 National Disability Employment Awareness theme, Employ, Expect, and Empower. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Center Director, Mr. Robert Cabana, to provide opening remarks.
Well, good morning. Thanks for coming out today, and thanks to all the folks that are watching. I want to thank Susan and the DAAWG. I think Susan, as the Executive Champion for the DAAWG, does an absolutely outstanding job, and I really appreciate what the DAAWG does to bring disability awareness at KSC to the forefront. There isn't anything that you can't do if you put your mind to it, and everybody has something to contribute. It's our diversity that makes KSC the great place that it is, and so I think this is really special. I also want to thank Michael Kersjes for coming today to share his inspirational message with us. I think that the more that we listen, the more that we learn, the more that we know, the better we can do. And so I'm looking forward to today's program, and thank you all for your participation. Thanks.
for your opening remarks and your great support to DAAWG. I also want to take a moment and thank senior management from NASA and from our contractor community that are here today. Your support is very vital to the success of DAAWG. So next, I'd like to invite a special member of DAAWG, Jessica Connor, to introduce our guest speaker. Jessica started as a summer intern, and then she became a co-op student working, I want everybody to listen to this, working, I have to make a plug, for the super great CFO organization. I know a lot of you are out there. So now Jessica works in the KSC Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity, and she is an EO specialist. Jessica is well known at KSC, and she is an amazing person. Jessica cannot hear, and she and her parents learned to sign language together at a very young age to be able to communicate with each other. Jessica was mainstreamed in regular schools, and she was a very successful graduate at the University of Central Florida, where I met her. She has been at KSC for over 4 years, and she's been an active member of DAAWG since 2010, and she agreed to be co-chair starting in 2012. So Jessica is very excited about the opportunity to introduce our speaker. So it's all yours, Jessica.
Hi, thank you, Susan Krosky. Disability Awareness and Action Working Group, DAAWG, wants to thank you for coming to support this inspirational event today in observance of the National Disability Employment Awareness Month. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Michael Kersjes. Mr. Kersjes spent more than a decade teaching students with disabilities. He is not only a unique special education teacher, but also a football coach for a high school in Michigan. Mike's story takes a teacher's sense of burnout in a new challenging direction. A teacher with a passion to help kids with disabilities and with an impending sense of frustration. Mr. Kersjes sought new ways to help the students learn. One day, Mr. Kersjes heard about the Space Camp program, a competitive education program designed for gifted students at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He knew that his kids could attend the space camp. Their self-esteem would blast off. One in particular had already dreamed of being an astronaut. Mr. Kersjes wrote a book, A Smile as Big as the Moon. His story is about the challenges he faced as he worked to bring students with disabilities to space camp. A Smile as Big as the Moon was made into a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie. I would like to include his quote, "I believe in teaching kids to challenge themselves, to question the labels that have been thrust upon them," end quote. Mr. Kersjes will be speaking about the power of the human spirit and dealing with obstacles and how to reach a common purpose. Finally, he is also just a fascinating person, and we all in for a great treat today. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Kersjes.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it. Good morning, all. Thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited about this. Talk about obstacles. I had to go through a few tornadoes and a few major rainstorms just to get to Nashville. Then when I got to Nashville, they said, your plane might not go because we got another tornado coming. But then the tornado decided to go another way. But as we got onto the plane, the pilot said, be ready for another obstacle because it's going to be a bumpy ride all the way to Orlando. So I get off the plane in Orlando, and next thing you know, there's storms again. I don't know if somebody's trying to me not to get here, or keep me here, one or the other, but I'm glad I'm here today. Today I'm going to talk to you about the power of the human spirit. And first of all, ladies, I'm sorry I'm not John Corbett. He's a lot better looking than I am, a lot sexier, and has done a lot more things than I have in my life. But I was very fortunate to have John Corbett play me. in the movie and worked with John over several months and all the kids. And it was so exciting that to, have your life story made, But it's not my life story. That's the thing that people mistake. It's not my life story. I was just the coach. They were my players, my students. They inspired me to do it. When the last day we were flying home on the airplane from space camp that they had just made history from, they came to the back of the plane. They said, Coach, we have 2 things to ask of you. And I said, what is this? I mean, we just did the phenomenal thing. What more could you ask of me? And they said, we ask of you to do 2 things. We want you to write a book about us, and we want it made into a movie. Let's see, book, movie, sure, why not? And they said, Coach, you can do it. Just like you told us we could do it. We believe in you. There's a certain part in the movie, and getting back to the power of the human spirit that I'm going to talk about today, but when I sat with Mr. Rickman, Tom Rickman, who wrote Coal Miner's Daughter, won an Academy Award for that in the movie script, it was very interesting, our dialogue between the 2 of us, and he said, what's the most powerful part of the movie in your mind? And I said to him, I think when I had to face the director at the space camp to make a point that these kids can do it. And I would like to read this scene to you because this, to me, was the most important part of the movie. I've worked with special needs kids far too long to romanticize their accomplishments. There are no simple solutions for any of them, but these are basically good kids who have been dealt a bad hand. They live most of their lives on margins. Their classroom is a metaphor for their existence. Out of the way, at the far end of the basement. It's like a big cell block. Bad light, bad air, no outside windows to the world. The classroom is not much. Not much is asked of them, nor as much as expected. Can they try your patience? Sometimes, yes, they can. And sometimes, do they break your heart? Oh, they certainly do. But there are times remarkable things have happened. I've seen it with my own eyes. Moments where more is asked of them, when more is expected of them, and they rise to the classroom gladly, gratefully, and remind you the overwhelming power of the human spirit. When we started really talking seriously about going to space camp, now mind you, these 20 kids are bused to me from 7 different school districts. I've never met them in my life. They have a wide range of disabilities from Tourette's, Down syndrome, ADHD, compulsive disorders, Tourette's syndrome. I had a girl recovering from leukemia. So you can see it's a wild bunch of kids that have been failing all along. When the special ed director and the superintendent of the school system called me off the football field, they said, we have a job for you. These kids are either going to be institutionalized or kicked out of the school system and be left to society to deal with. It's up to you to fix it. How you're going to do it, we don't know, but these kids are on their last link. Well, being as a football coach, I just saw 20 team members. These were my team. I was going to coach them. Together, everyone accomplishes more. And then when we started getting to the idea about going to space camp after we got kicked out of the planetarium the first day, that was the writing was on the wall. This was not going to be a smooth ride. But when I got him back to the classroom, I asked him a few things, as a good coach does, because he's got to find his leaders, and he's got to make sure his leader's on the same level as the coach is. I asked my team first, how many of you have been on a team? Not one kid raised their hands. Not one kid. And they started laughing. And I said, why are you laughing? Well, look at us. We're the bad news dogs, like your term, dogs. But we're the bad news bears. Nobody wants us. You talk about team coach? Nobody wants us on a team. Look at us. We're one step from being kicked out of here. So I said, do you understand what obstacles are? No. They didn't really understand what obstacles were. And I said, do you understand what common goals are? No. No. Do you know what your common purpose is in life? No. Right there and there, it told me that, first of all, I had to make them understand they've been facing obstacles every day that worked their way all the way to this point to where they are in my classroom. But they just didn't know they were obstacles. They just thought it was part of the bully system, okay? Albert Einstein said it best. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, but imagination can encircle the world. And I told all 20 of them, I said, you know what? You don't have a disability in my eyes. I don't believe any of those boxes, what those boxes say, because I haven't even opened them. Because I don't want them to have me think that I'm prejudgmental because I'm reading what those test scores say or what those doctors or social workers have said. I don't want anybody to influence my mind as their coach of what I can build this team to be. I said, how many in your classroom have an imagination? They all raised their hand. I said, that's right. You all have an imagination, and it's what you do with that imagination that counts. And they kind of turned to one another. I said, you know what else Albert Einstein said? People with great inspiration will often find violent opposition due to mediocre minds. And that is true. Because people might see you as a great inspiration, and you scare them. And they're going to frighten you any way they can from you to succeed. Now I'm going to ask you this, team. Are you willing to risk to take the chance to go with me so far? Because that's the only way we're going to find out how far one can go. Risk-taking. Well, they came back, they're all sitting there. And they're kind of like, why are you willing to do this for us? Because I said, nobody's coached you. You haven't been on a team. Now you are. Let's make this thing work. So I said, okay, let's deal with obstacles. Obstacles. They said, you mean like, Coach, when somebody puts some super glue in my lock? I said, that's an obstacle. Yeah. Or when they mock us and take the salt shakers and throw stuff on our food? I said, that's an obstacle. That's right. Those are obstacles. I said, you know what common goals are? Like when my mom says I have to brush my teeth, I accomplish that. Is that a common goal? I said, that's a good idea. That's a common goal. You have to brush your teeth. But I said, more importantly, I'm going to tell you a story about these 6 guys. And maybe you can understand what I mean from obstacles to common goals to common purpose. I said, these 6 guys were best of friends. Went to school together, high school, college, were in each other's marriages, godfathers. And one weekend, one of the guys, who happens to be kind of the leader of the 6, says, hey, I got a beautiful sailing yacht. Let's go sailing for the weekend, kind of bond together, and kind of get perspective of life. They all went for it. That night, that day, they went to the boat. It was gorgeous. And they put all their stuff in, and off to sea they go. Well, they got out to sea, about the middle of the evening. All of a sudden, a storm came about that they didn't expect. I said, here comes the obstacles. All of a sudden, the storm batters the yacht, and the mast breaks, and their communication's knocked out. The rudder on the yacht is damaged, and they're sitting dead afloat in the ocean all by themselves. What happens? Obstacles. When obstacles happen, all of a sudden, the team breaks down. They start doing finger pointing, mistrust, no accountability. Everybody's not trusting one another, and all of a sudden, they're not becoming friends. They're going away as enemies. My kids are shaking their head. They're understanding it. But all of a sudden, as the dawn came arise, they all are saying to one another, how are we going to get to land? How are we going to get to land? And one of my kids go, well, how are they going to get to land, Coach? And I said, see, they forgot until the leader came and said he figured it out. It's not how we get to land. It's how we fix the boat. So they came as team members, and 2 guys came together and fixed the rudder. 2 guys fixed the mast. They managed to get some kind of navigational system fixed, and off they went. And by completing all those little common goals, they reached their common purpose. Oh. See, now here's the obstacles we have, kids, going to space camp. I have to raise $50,000. That's an obstacle. How are we going to do that? And everybody came up with good ideas. I think some of you, if you saw the movie, you know. But I was terrible at grant writing, honestly, you know. And I was failing miserably. That was one end of it, but you don't share that with the kids because you got to stay positive with your team. My team members were great. They were doing, you know, car washes, bake sales, and other little fundraisers that we could come up, but nowhere to the magnitude of money that we needed. The other thing was, the obstacles was the teachers in my building. They were very jealous that all of a sudden that we were getting some recognition by the newspaper, radio, and other things that this group of kids finally is going to be allowed to go to space camp. The next obstacle was finding the money of $50,000. But during that course, I had to teach them their common goals because there is so much for these kids to learn to compete at space camp. Over 200, you know, NASA acronyms. They had to learn things about rocketry and propulsion. They had to do things of different nature of math, science, and technology, astronomy. They're going to have to do a science lab and competition. And we had to rehearse these kinds of things and learn these kids because most of these kids have been denied math classes, have been denied science classes, have been denied technology. We had no computers. All the other classes did, but we didn't. We were in that back closet, no lights, no windows, out of society, where people want us to be. So we would meet every weekend for 8 straight months and train. And they start to pick it up. These were common goals that they, you know, at first they thought, we're going to space camp. Well, we haven't got the money yet, but we believe in you, Coach. And lo and behold, comes the day, a couple of my kids who've been working at have been working at a McDonald's, or excuse me, Burger King, let's get that straight, have been talking to the manager who's been relaying the messages back to the owner of 13 Burger Kings that these kids are going to space camp, but they need $50,000. So one day I get this phone call, and it was Mr. Treeweiler, whom I have not met. I've only worked through his staff, and he has requested myself and my partner's presence at his office. Well, generally to me, shame on me, that means that's bad news. Because when the owner of Burger King's is calling you, that's not to give me a hug. That's mean maybe you're going to get your kids terminated. So on the way over there, I was thinking all the ways of how am I going to take care of these obstacles that my dear children have thrown in my face right now. So I get in his office and shake his hand. The guy's about 6'6", 260. He's been in National Geographic magazines, and he's got all of these safari trophies on the walls, a lot of guns, and I thought, well, this is a good place to die, if any. And he calmly sits down, and he hands me a soft drink, and he says, how much money do you need to go to space camp? And right away, I'm apologizing. I said, sir, honest to God, whatever my kids did, I know my Trek kid burps and, you know, swears a lot and stuff, and he should have been on that microphone giving people fries. I'm telling you that right now. And he's looking at me kind of funny. He goes, Steve's great. We love him here. And he goes, how much money do you want, do you need to go to space camp? And I said, $50,000. But again, I start apologizing. Finally, he's had enough of it. He slams his fist on the table, and the soft drinks rise off, and they come down. And, you know, I'm thinking, oh, God, here it comes. He goes, I'm going to give you the $50,000 to go. And I go, why? He goes, because your kids told me you suck at grant writing. I said, oh, yeah, I do. He goes, I heard that wasn't going too good, and then the kids keep, you know, telling me that you haven't made it too far, and I see the kids, and they tell me, you got to help this guy, you know, so he writes a check. You know what's really funny about my kids, how much they gain confidence as we understanding obstacles and common goals to reach their common purpose? All of a sudden, one thing, when the community finds out you're getting $50,000, everybody becomes your friend, especially in the public school system because, you know, they're saying, cha-ching, money. Well, day comes of the check, right? And the check comes, and it's one of those big commercial checks from Burger King, right? And they're going to do publicity, and they got all the special ed teachers are on board now. You know, all your people that were throwing you the obstacles, now they're your best friends. You know, and my kids bought it and said, Coach, we know this is fake, you know. Well, as they bring out the check, and my Tourette syndrome kid, Steve, he's standing behind Mr. Treeweiler, and they're taking the pictures. And Steve goes, stop. So everybody thought, well, what's wrong? So he comes around Mr. Treeweiler in front of that $50,000 nice check, and everybody's still holding it, and he points his finger at Mr. Treeweiler and says, someday you'll be working for me. I'm going, oh no. Another obstacle to think about. But this wouldn't have happened if the kids didn't understand what it took to be a team. Teamwork makes the dream work. And I told them, as we were getting into this, and there were some days they were afraid of doing some things of failure, and we all are. So I said, hey, how many of you kids know the definition of fear? That means you're afraid. I said, really? I said, I have two definitions of fear. So I go up to the board and I wrote F-E-A-R. First definition of fear. Forget everything and run. Right? Yeah, that's fear all right, Coach. You run away when it's fearing. Or F-E-A-R. Face everything and rise. I like this one. Oh yeah, we like that too, Coach. We ain't afraid of anything. And the thing is, and the movie points it out too, as you're coaching your kids, and it's just like in your football teams and everything else, you got to find leaders. And I was sitting here, I knew I was coming here, but on Saturday, I love college football, just love it. You know, coached it, played it. I thought, leadership. I wonder how many times I'm going to hear the word leader or leadership during the whole day of college football. From morning till into, interviews, you know how that all goes. I stopped at 123 at midnight that night. The word leader or leadership. That's how important it is. How important it is here. How important it is everywhere. Finding your leaders. You got good coaches. It's still finding your leaders. It just doesn't stop with a coach. Because a leader in your team can do so much more. They can put out fires. They can encourage one another. They teach about accountability. They tell everyone you are accountable. You mean so much to us. There's one thing we do at our football team when I was coaching, and I don't know if I have it on me. Oh, yes, I do. I gave every one of these kids, before we left the space camp, a link. A link. And it was on their desk. And when they came to their desk, they said, what is this? I said, grab your link, and I'm going to show you what it's all about. So all 20 of them followed me into our locker room. And I said, look at the ceiling. And they looked up. And all the way around is this big chain of links with every football player's name attached to a link, from the freshman all the way through varsity. And on the board, where we have the arrow, it says, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I said, we're a team. And there are going to be times as we're training to go to space camp, and we get to space camp, there are going to be moments where this link is going to come apart. And we're not going to be as strong as our weakest link. But it's up to all of us on this team to connect it together, to be as one. And I said, I'm going to ask you all to join your links before we go, and we're going to hang it in my room. And we did. And when they came back from space camp, to this day, they all have their link. As a reminder, paying it forward of understanding how strong your link really is. You know, when we got to space camp, there's a scene in the movie that I wrote with Mr. Rickman, I thought another part that I thought was really important, and it was when the teams were being introduced to their counselors. Now, being from the North, trying to understand the Southern counselors was a chore for us, if you understand my meaning. Well, Becky was her name. She come up front. She went about 5'3", maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. She come running down, just spry as ever. All right, you Bird King team, y'all get together right now. We all going to introduce your captains now. You get right there. And our kids are going like, what is she saying? Now, we're fixing to get right over here. And Steve Bennett, my truck, goes, they say fixing a lot down here, don't they? I said, yeah, they do. You know, I said, they're fixing everything, Coach. This place should be no problem whatsoever. I said, it's just a term, okay? Here's the thing. As they march the team captains up to stand to one another, okay? And because our team captain's going to introduce our Burger King team. We picked Ben, our Down syndrome, as our team captain. Because it was his idea originally, when he got us kicked out of planetarium, to go to space camp. We owed him that much to have some pressure on him. The team captain from the Gagarin team turns to my student that's standing behind Ben and says, hey, that kid's a Mongoloid. And my Tourette kid, Steve Bennett, turned to him and said, he's an American. 8 months of training these kids, understanding about obstacles, common goals to reach their common purpose has sunk right there to me when I heard and saw that. Because 8 months ago, that kid would have been pulverized by 20 kids. They learned how to deal with obstacles. They understood accountability. They understood things unravel if we don't hold ourselves accountable to our team. We're only as strong as our weakest link. As we got into the treacherous days and hours of space camp, I must say they didn't make it easy for us, because we were the last ones of the day to do the swim competition. And that's a grueling day, then to be asked to do this competition after 8 hours and classes and everything, and to do what we knew was going to be really a tough thing for us to do, because first of all, a lot of my kids never knew how to swim until we got into this. And my football team really got involved after the beating what my students took. Stephanie, and it's well documented in the movie, they called her Sasquatch, Alice Lagoon and everything, to the point that they had her in a corner in a fetal position, and finally I had enough. And I got the football team on board, and that sort of kind of turned the tide, because they saw how hard these kids were working every day, and they understood that, you know, how high a standards we hold each other on our football team, and they knew, as me being their coach, I hold those kids to that same standard. So they pitched in, and they helped me work with those kids. And I'll be honest with you, you know who else helped our kids learn how to do all this stuff? Jack Walsma. Jack Walsma, he called me. He came, he would drive from Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is a 2.5 hour drive to Grand Rapids, Michigan. He'd be there every Saturday with the kids. And I'll tell you a quick story a little about Jack. Because you got to build these tetrahedrons underwater, right? And he said, well, he got in the pool the second time on a Saturday, and he's working. We had these nodes and rods that were donated by Space Camp for us to work with and everything. And he gets in the pool with the kids, and they go underwater, and they're putting it all together, and the kids are pointing to him, and he's going, okay. And he comes up from under the water, and he swims over to the side, and he's turning the node around. And I said, is there something wrong with the node, Jack? What's going on? He goes, at NASA, they put the fingernail polish and mark it for us where we got to put these in. He says, here, they don't do that. Your kids know what to do. And, you know, so it was remarkable to see somebody so inspired. He saw it in the Detroit News when we got the check, and he couldn't believe it. And his wife said, hey, you know, this Kersjes character, he sounds out of whack. Somebody up your alley, Jack. Why don't you go give the guy a hand? And he came for 8 weeks working with my kids, an astronaut. Hey, I mean, he could be doing so many other things. But he came to show because he understood. And he would talk to the kids on the side of the pool. What was it like to be in Jack? He had a private tutorial session, and they would ask him the most off-the-wall, hey, what kind of toilet tissue did you use? You know, and all those kinds of things. But he was so relaxed about it, and the kids were just felt so much more confidence knowing that he was part of our team, you know? But when we got to the swimming part of it, we got in the pool, and I thought our kids were really prepared. And they did a great job in the movie because we end up breaking, and it still stands to this day, NASA Space Camp, or the Space Camp record for building the tetrahedrons underwater. And I was so proud of our kids, and that was the first time our kids have ever won anything in their life. Can you imagine that? Anything in their life. They have never won anything. And you would think they just won the Academy Award. And they're hugging and embracing each other and loving on one another. And I said, whoa, man, this ain't my 20 kids from what I saw 8, 9 months ago. That power of the human spirit is awesome. But here comes another obstacle. Here comes this smart kid. I hear him in the locker room yelling at my guys as they're changing. He goes, any idiot can win a swimming competition. Let's see how you do in a classroom. Now, again, if it wasn't for themselves knowing what accountability was and teamwork, one of my students wanted to kind of rough them up because that's how they react sometimes. The rest of the pack said, that's not what we do anymore. We will deal with this later. And that week went on and on. And yes, they got bullied some, and, you know, it's hard to hide a Tourette syndrome kid with all his tics and antics. It's hard to hide, and I didn't want to. They got to be proud of who they are. And they were. There was 2 incidents in the movie that are so true. The completeness of your team came the evening where we had to draw our own team space patch. And it was late, and the kids are pretty hot and tired, and the first time I saw the link breaking in my eyes is when they got them in that room, and they said, okay, make your team patch, and then you can go to bed. And it was after 11 at night already. So they put a rocket together with a guy on it, you know, like we don't care. And that disturbed me. But I didn't say anything because other people are now starting giving ideas. And we had this really good kid, Lewis, who was a beautiful drawer. He could draw, and draw. The kid was in, when I got him, his 13th foster home. Can you imagine that? I went back to just check his records about his foster, how things were going. Do you know, when he was first found, him and his brother, they found him when he was 2 years old, chained to a tree in a trailer park. Can you imagine the obstacles that kid had? He had no common goals, no common purpose in life. He was chained to a tree. Here he is, the man of our shining hour. This is the guy that's going to get us another award. And all of a sudden, the kids are overbearing on him and everything, and he picks the table up, and he throws it against the wall, and he barges out of the room crying. Now, there are judges there, they have a counsel there, and they're documenting all this because they don't want us there. I said, oh, my God. I said to the kids, I said, see what happens? The link is broken. We have to fix this. We have to fix this. And I could see Lewis crying outside the door down by the water fountain. And I said to the team, I said, okay, clean up this mess. I'm going to go get him. The counselor says, do you want me to get him? I said, no, I'm going to go get him. And here's where history made. It came together. Steve and Scott came up to me as I'm grabbing the door. And they said, Coach, we don't need you anymore. This is our team. He's our player. And we're going to fix this. We want you to go. I wanted that to happen, but I didn't want it to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like putting your child on the bus for the first time to go to kindergarten. You want them to experience their first day of school and be a great one and everything. But yet at the same time, you don't want to let them go. You want to keep them in your own confine. You want to nurture them still. You want to make sure they're okay. But they understood. They had the power inside them now. The human spirit was working there that they were going to be able to take this and fix this. So I left. I had no idea what their patch was going to look like. Comes the day of graduation. There's so many things our kid fought so hard. We had one breakdown during our final mission where we didn't get our satellite off on time, and Stephanie had a little breakdown there, and Scott took care of that. He stood up in front of everybody in that mission control room, and he said, listen here, we can do this. We got an hour and a half of a mission to go, and we are not going to fail. I was so proud of him because he understood. There was no fear. It was time to face everything and rise, and when failure is not an option. And he said it so strong that they believed him. Their leader believed them. They were all out there saying, we're going to do this. They gave Stephanie encouragement, said, don't worry about it. We're going to make it up in other areas. But I don't know what their final score is. But the way he delivered his message, I saw a coach. It wasn't even a leader. I saw a coach there. So when the day of graduation comes, I have no idea where we're going to sit other than we won this swimming award, where we were going to be. But all I know is we came and did our best. I got a phone call early in the morning in my hotel room. And it says there's a special visitor down here in the auditorium that's going to give the commencement address at graduation for all 500 kids. And he would like to speak to you for a moment. I said, who is it? And they said, he would rather not say, and he wants you to come down right now. So I got dressed. I came down to the lobby at the Marriott. It's Jack Lausma. Him and his wife drove all the way from Michigan down to Huntsville. He asked Space Camp if he could give the commencement address. You know what's so funny? This is hilarious. You know, the kids all have their flight suits on and all their stuff getting ready for graduation. And as they're doing the marching in, all the teams are coming in, and the Burger King team is last. And Jack Lausma is standing at the bottom, because we were the last one to file in to come in here like this, and Jack's standing here. And the kids go, hey, Jack! And he's high-fiving every one of our kids that are sitting down. And all these 400 and some other people are going like, how do you know this guy? Oh, we let him swim with us. We taught him a few things. And they're going like, do you know he's an astronaut? Yeah, but he's part of our team. He's part of our Burger King team. And he was. How great was that? You know, and when Jack came over here to give his speech, he sat down, and he gave a speech to everybody there. But really, he gave a speech to 20 kids. Then it came time for the awards, and Ben Schmidt, my Down syndrome kid, says, Coach, he goes, you know, we made it. We're going to graduate, you know, and we made it here, and that was good enough. I said, we haven't completed all of our common goals to reach our common purpose. You haven't graduated yet. You have not completed your common purpose. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. For the best space patch, and I don't know what it is, but they're going to bring it up on a big screen, okay? And in second place, because they only give 3 places, the Burger King team. And I see that, I'm going, oh my God, well, at least it wasn't a finger or something. It's something legit, okay? And the screen is opening, and they lower the patch down. It's a Burger King fly-through space station restaurant in a geosynchronized orbit. And they have to represent all 20, so they were all robots, you know, serving Whoppers into other cargo bays of other shuttles. And one of their Burger King team shuttle was in the fly-through where the remote manipulator arm was dropping Whoppers into the cargo bay. Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, but imagination can encircle the world. What an imaginations they had. What a team. We took third place in best chemistry lab medical facility dissertation. So we taken a first, a second, and a third. But we really wanted to win the best mission. Every astronaut wants to have the best mission. And in third place, the Burger King team. Now, mind you, there were 10 teams there. We have placed in every category. The kids sat down, and they're all patting and wondering, and they're going, look at what all we won today. They didn't know. They have won so much more than that day. They won team players, members, the families, school districts. They won a lot more than that. They won respect. They won the power of the human spirit. They got one more award to go, and that is the Right Stuff Award. Me personally, I was thinking about getting those kids on that plane and going home and resting finally. All good. And the winner, the Right Stuff Award is given to the best person, he or she, represents as an astronaut during that week, in leadership and paying it forward in so many other ways. And Dr. Deborah Barnhart read it off and said, and this year's Right Stuff Award winner from the Burger King team, Scott Gowdy. I started to cry. And he got up. Stop crying, Coach. I got this. Came up to the podium. And I'll never forget what he said. He stood there, and he got the medal around his neck. And they said, do you have something to say? And he says, yes, I do. He said, we, not I, he said, we didn't think we were going to win. Because sometimes special people are not to pick to win for anything. But we won, and we love it. And he got down off the stage, and I thought, wow, I got to borrow that locker room speech. Never said I, we. It was all about team. Stay in the link, stay in the course. And then when all the kids went to congratulate him, he didn't want to talk to them, and some press members and some radio people, one from our hometown, wanted to talk to him. He goes, no, I have to do something first. And he goes, do you have a pair of scissors? And our counselor goes, well, I do. And he took his medal off him, and he says, I have to do this. And the kids, I was kind of off the side, and one of the kids came to me and said, you got to go, Scott's going to do something to his award. And he cuts it up in 20 pieces. And he gives me one, and he said, every team needs a leader, but every team needs a coach. And he gave everybody a piece of his award, the whole team. Unbelievable. I told the kids, and I left the kids with this, and I'd like to leave you with this thought in mind, that I kind of said it a few times in my room, which I called my locker room with them, and I addressed it to them, and I like to share it with you, if you don't mind. I said, you might not be someone's first choice, but you're a great choice. You may not be rich, but you are valuable. You don't pretend to be someone you're not, because you're good being you. You may not be proud of some of the things you have done in the past, but you are proud of who you are today. You may not be perfect, but you don't need to be. Take me as I am, or watch me as I walk away to be me. Thank you all very much for having me today.
Michael,
Yes, sir.
thank you for those excellent words.
Well, thank you, sir, for having me. I'm not kidding you.
That's absolutely outstanding. We'd like to give you a little something to remember your visit to KSC.
Oh,
and
wow.
kind of a little bit of the past and the future.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Something you can hang on the wall. But from all of us at the Kennedy Space Center, thank you for your words of encouragement and leadership, and thanks for being a great coach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Sure. Okay.
Susan, here, look.
Oh, let's
slide
move
over
on.
here.
Okay.
Let's get out here.
Okay.
Come on.
All right.
All right.
Thank you all. This is great. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Do you have any questions? Shoot away.
Any
What are we gonna
questions
do?
for Mr. Kersjes?
Anybody got a question for me? Not one. You know, this is typical.
I have one.
Yeah.
I have one. So, your students today,
Oh,
how are they
yeah.
doing?
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, first of all, let's start with Steve Bennett. Mr. Triolder does not work for him. Let's get that straight. However, Steve Bennett has a 10-year contract with NASCAR. He does all their videotaping in the Midwest for them. He went on to become a certified paramedic, and he's also a firefighter. Now, Ben went on to work with Meyer 50 Acres up in one of our big, store chains, and he's a head of produce. And he's been there for 15 years doing produce and stuff, and they say he does a great job. And he makes sure everything's like, one of my autistic kids, he designs football stadiums. He is really good at seat designing and stuff, and he said because I was a football coach and made him go to all the football games, he really got interested in that. Now, Scott, who won the Right Stuff Award, he works for a painting firm where they go in works for a condo factory and stuff, but he helps design the different colors and such that are in different rooms and that. So he's kind of an interior designer, and he's doing a great job at that. Lewis, the kid that blew up, he is a carpenter and a builder, and he builds homes, and he has his stuff on Facebook. He sells to people. He does beautiful work. Some of my other girls became a pastry chef. Another one works for JCPenney in accounting. And it's kind of funny, one of my former students, who, not in this group, but in a past group, now works for Marshall at Marshall Space Flight Center with them. And he followed me all the way down to Huntsville and got a job with SAIC, got a contractor's job, and he is working at Marshall. And get this is God's truth. This is a kid, when he came to me in 9th grade, not one teacher would take him in math, science, or technology class in our high school whatsoever because of his disability problems. He graduated with a BS degree in biology at Michigan State, and he was the Michigan State basketball team science tutor. Yeah, so much for that, right? Yeah. STEM is working good in special ed, believe me.
Outstanding.
Yes, I saw another hand. Somebody have their hand? Yes, ma'am. Okay, most of the ages of my students were 15 to 16, a few 17-year-olds in there. And one thing I did learn that I thought after my first couple times, I had my own foundation for over 10 years, and I took over 3,000 special needs kids to space camp. I raised over $3 million, and I took them from all over the United States. And it's amazing, Mr. Director, I want to share something with you about the Navajo Indian Nation, okay? True story, because I didn't know this either. I went to my first trip to the Navajo Indian Reservation in Tucson. And they thought, the instructors, the special ed people on the reservation said, there's no way the tribal council is going to let you go take these kids to space camp, all these kids with disabilities. And I said, why? And they said, they're going to tell you, you have to attend this tribal meeting. So I went to the tribal meeting. And they sat me down and they said, we're not going to allow our children to go with you because of NASA. And I'm going, well, this ain't good. What did NASA do and they said, with all the shuttle flights and all the satellites and all that materials, they have disturbed our gods, our resting grounds for our warriors and for the people who believe in this. And so, I'm going like, I said, here's the deal. I said, every group of kids I take, I do a rocket launch before we go to space camp. And I get the community involved, and my kids build all the rockets and everything. I said, what if we held a rocket launch on the Indian reservation, and we do this in honor of your spirits? They took a vote and said, will our kids be involved? Yes. And they said, well, here's what you have to do. We're going to bring in a medicine man, okay? So they brought a medicine man to the rocket launch that day. My kids put the paint I had to wear for them to honor their gods. I had these moccasins. And director, I think you should have been there. You had to do the dance. And they let the kids go. And it's so, you don't think of those things, and you get caught off guard sometimes. You know, what you take for granted is okay, but really, you know, you're going to have to deal. That was an obstacle I didn't expect, but you can reach it because they understood the common purpose. It was going to be good for their kids. It's just that they're going to make this old coach go through some common goals to get to the common purpose with them. Okay? Back when I was younger, I could handle the step pretty good. You know, the kids said I did pretty good. But kind of felt nervous with a big old buffalo head behind your ear. You know, you might get the horn if you miss a step, but it worked out pretty good. Anything else? Yes.
Saw the movie. It was excellent.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed your presentation. I spent a lot of time with kids with disabilities, and I just want to ask you if you ever heard the term differently abled?
What was the term?
Differently abled.
No, I haven't.
One of the kids said to me one time, I'm not disabled, I'm differently abled, and would you please, every chance you have, use that term? So I just wanted to pass that on.
I think that's great.
It's a great way to overcome
Yes,
obstacles.
absolutely. I think that's awesome. I'm going to have to remember that one for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any movie questions? There's got to be. Oh, my word. No? Yes.
As myself, I used to be a special education class too, and that kind of remind me of Scott in a lot of ways. As a teacher, as a coach, all the bully and all the principal, the teachers telling you the no, and how does it make you feel when the kids have those hope, like myself, to be somebody, but you guys are mentor? How does it make you feel when you get no and people don't believe in you as a teacher?
Well, that's a good question because I was told right away, no, about, going to space camp. They said, your kids are only here to get a vocation or be kicked out. I mean, that's how narrow-minded our administration was there. And, I'm the oldest of 10 kids at home. And I never believed a no because my mother says, where somebody tells you no, there's another door open somewhere else. And it's how hard do you want to pursue it? And, no is just 2 letters. And it shouldn't be your ending. And I never believed that. And I was told no a lot. And I just would say, I'm going to go around you, through you, over you. Typical offensive lineman, defensive line attitude, but you're not going to stop me. And listen, I could not have done this without all the help that I had from our congressman, Paul Henry, to Jack Lausma. Even Wally Schraw got involved with us on a couple little favors from Jack that was asked of him. And NASA has always played a big part in our success and with our kids because NASA is everything about imagination and reaching for the stars. And what you do is so valuable here. And I just wish, the purse strings allow you to do so much more, especially for a younger age. They're taped to video machines and stuff. And I always try in our neighborhood when I'm back home in Michigan and stuff, and even around my neighborhood today, I always have rockets in my house. And the kids want to sit at the table and build them. I get them away from a TV set. We go, we do all the things, call the FA, try to call the airport, make them go through all the jumps, making sure the fire department's around in case we set a field on fire or something. But, the things that you have given these kids an opportunity to touch and succeed and so many jobs to have a chance to experience in life. And I'm going through a job search myself right now after my government contract has ended, so I'm looking. And every day, you know, you got to stay positive and persistent and go after it and believe that something's going to happen good for you. And it usually does. It's when you start to self-doubt yourself that things go wrong. Well, thank you again so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Director. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Very much. And we just got a little bit more, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
we're
I
going to
understand
raffle
that.
off your books.
Oh, okay.
Well, wow.
Thank you, Susan. I'd like to thank everybody for attending our event today. Thank you to senior management for coming. I'm not going to repeat what Susan said. I had that at the first part of my speech, so I'll just go on. Now I want to thank Mike Kersjes for coming and speaking to us today. You are truly an inspiration. When I was in high school, I had a resource room teacher, very similar to special ed teacher, and his name was David St. John, but we always called him Saint. That's the name he went by. He literally was a saint to me. He helped me with some of my classes because I didn't have sign language interpreters, and I missed a lot of what was happening in the classroom. And I also didn't have any friends in high school because I was different. He was like a second father to me and my best friend. He always believed in me and encouraged me to go after my dreams and to go after every opportunity that I had. I will never forget him. Same with my Michael Kersjes. Mike and Sane never gave up on their students because they believed in each of us and that we could achieve anything we wanted to. They both inspired us to be the best we can be. And here I am now speaking in front of you as a successful accountant that has worked for NASA for over 23 years, all because one teacher believed in me. Just like Mike believed that his students would succeed through space camp, he never doubted them for 1 second. Thank you, Mike, for all you have done for your special kids. I know they are grateful to your dedication to them. And lastly, I want to thank Susan Foskey, our executive champion for DAAWG, for your leadership and for always being our biggest supporter and #1 fan. We are forever grateful to you. Thank you. And now I would like to do our raffle tickets. We've got great prizes to give out. The winner of the raffle is going to get the book, A Smile as Big as the Moon, and a poster. And everybody have their ticket? The winner is 817060. Do we have a winner?